Hello and welcome back to the Premier Injuries channel. Remember to like the video, comment below and subscribe. Get involved with the debates. You know, we love hearing from you. So if you think that we're talking cobblers, if you think that we're talking rot, disagree with us below. But if you think as well we've made some good points, comment below. But also check out the wildcard video that Linn and I just did together. It's really fantastic to see kind of her approach to FPL, which is very different from mine and probably very, very different from Ben's. But he's got probably the most, I mean, he lives up to his name. He's differential dinnery. There's nothing more that I can say about that. But also, if you haven't watched that video, we can announce that Premier Injuries has made a signing. We've made the long-term contract of Linn here, so she's going to be part of our team for this season. Really exciting to be going forward together, all three of us, just every week, riffing, having good fun, talking about Fantasy Premier League. Now, I did ask a teaser question last week, more about, you know, the Premier League and everything, how it was going at the moment. But I thought, let me test your trivia knowledge, you two. So I'm going to put a question, and I guess you can do a buzzer or something if you want to jump in. Who knows first? The first question, it's all to do with transfers because of Linn's wildcard. I've themed it around that. First question is, last player to transfer from Newcastle to Liverpool. Who knows? Oh, Ben
Andy Carroll.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, no. Gini Wijnaldum.
We will give it to Ben. So that's the first one. Well, to both of you again. Who was the last player to go from Arsenal to Liverpool?
If that ever happened.
Oxlade-Chamberlain.
Oh, yeah.
Ben.
Damn it.
Again. And then this one. He's undefeated. Come on, Linn. Right. The last player to transfer from Arsenal to Newcastle.
Geordie Joe Willock.
Willock.
Linn.
I knew that one. I knew that one.
He's done it. 3-0. Hat-trick hero. Ben has won that. I'll be doing this through the season now. I like little teaser questions.
Yeah, there's so many transfers at Liverpool, so I can't keep track of them. But at Newcastle, like, not much will happen, so it's easy.
Oh, hey.
Oh. I mean, this is the thing as well. I wanted to do a few others, like, so from Liverpool to Newcastle, from Arsenal, from Liverpool to Arsenal, but like some of them were back in the 1950s, and I thought, as good as our footballing knowledge is, some of you probably don't know who John Smith of 1951 is, so we'll skip over that. But this is our usual, the good, the bad, and the ones that are a bit on the fence. And we're going to start off with the good this game week. Ben, who do you want to bring to the table?
I know he's a firm favourite for you. He's really come to the fore in the first couple of game weeks of the season. This guy is not only out to impress his new teammates, but I think he's got one eye on impressing his parent club, in the hope that maybe after this season he'll be welcomed back into the fold, and he hopes to establish himself down at Stamford Bridge. And that, of course, is Conor Gallagher, a player who had a great season last year down at the Hawthorns, West Brom, been heavily linked with moves, even some suggestion that he may have even come to St James's Park in the summer, but he didn't. He stayed in London. He stayed down at Selhurst Park, a part of Patrick Vieira's new vision of his plan, and he's been paramount and pivotal to those early season performances. And again, showed at the weekend against Tottenham in that comfortable 3-0 victory, just how much of a fantasy asset he could be. I think he comes in at around 5.6 million. I think he's currently got the best XG and XGI of anybody within that Palace team. And when you're thinking Palace, inherently it's a Wilfred Zaha, maybe even an Ayew, of course, my boy, Christian Benteke. But no, it's Conor Gallagher who's doing the business for the Eagles this term.
Yeah, Linn, what do you think on Conor Gallagher? Again, for those who haven't seen the wildcard team, he's in there. He's in your 11.
Oh.
Yeah. Ben just stole my players like he stole my points.
It's
No,
great minds, Lynn. Great minds.
yeah. So if I can't pick Gallagher, I will definitely say good pick.
I mean,
Everything he said is so true, and yeah, he's looking like a great player.
would
Well,
you
about his 5.6.
would you add to it then that maybe there's another player at Crystal Palace that's caught your eye?
Oh yeah, the boy we talked about last week, Edward.
Yeah,
Came in, scored, and looked fantastic.
he came, he saw, he conquered. I mean, is he in genuine consideration for your team now?
He was. I tried to put it in, but I didn't actually want to double up with Gallagher and Edward. So then I just felt that Gallagher was the better pick for now.
Yeah, I mean, he's looking good. Gallagher's looking good. The thing is, there's a lot of great things going on at Palace at the moment. Elise returning to fitness, Zaha playing so well, and the team seem to have clicked. You know, from the second half against West Ham and into this game against Tottenham, they just look really, really good. Obviously, next game week, you don't want them to do too well against your boys, Liverpool, Linn. But going forward, I like Palace. You know, in terms of FPL aside, I think they're a nice little club. I think they're doing really well in terms of building almost for the future now. They've really done well with that rebuild. They brought some really good players in. And I think that Gallagher is an absolutely fantastic asset, especially at his price point. You know, we kind of live for these assets, don't we, in terms of Fantasy Premier League? Somebody cheap, somebody who will facilitate other players in your team, but at the same time is so good. Would you say, Lynn, he's up to the level of Lundstrom, or could be up to the level of Lord Lundstrom?
Yeah, definitely. I think he will be someone actually could have him a team for the rest of the season. With excellent value, and he's just looking great, bar injuries, of course.
Yeah, let's hope we don't see an injury with him. And the thing is, as well, he's on something on set pieces, which is something that is not too affected by fixtures as well. You know, set pieces. I forget who the Italian man was, but he kind of explained that set pieces is a 20 goal per season striker that never gets injured. And so that's always in your team. It's a really fascinating concept, and I think a lot more teams are buying into that. And maybe that's why Palace brought him in as well, because they saw that they weren't fantastic at set pieces last season, saw it as a weakness of their squad, and potentially Patrick Vieira thought that's somewhere that we can improve. Lynn, is there a player? Is there a team? Is there, you know, somebody or something that you want to highlight as the good for this game week?
Well, I would go Gallagher, Edward as well. Like they were so impressive, I would say. And if I look at some other teams, Tomiyasu, Arsenal.
Ah, okay, yeah. I mean, with Arsenal, then, do you think though it's premature to be discussing them? Like, I've put them on the prospects to wait on, but we can bring them into the good discussion at the moment. Are you thinking it's because of their fixtures going forward that they should be considered?
Yeah, exactly that. I think a lot of people will be looking at Arsenal defenders this week, trying to get one of them in. And then the question is, who should they get? Tomiyasu, Ben White?
I think the thing is, and going forward, is that zero point 0.1. I know it doesn't seem a lot, but you can save that by getting Ben White in. I don't see there being a lot of assists in that Arsenal back line. I definitely don't think that people should splurge a bit more on Gabriel or Tierney. I just think it's a bit of a waste of money. And so, realistically, you're looking at clean sheets there. 4.4 is fantastic for a defender. And what the good thing about Arsenal is as well is we know that when they're playing well and they've got their best 11, they're good defensively. Not maybe offensively, but defensively they're good. But yeah, Ben, what do you think about Arsenal then? Are they a prospect to wait on because the new fixtures are in now, the good turn of fixtures, or is it the time to bring them in?
It's a tough call. I think I made the comment just only earlier today, that one swallow doesn't make a summer. One victory against, I'm not going to say poor, an average Norwich team, a narrow victory. And for me, I mean, at the price point, I do like Ben White. I own Ben White at 4.4. I think that's a great buy. And I've even talked about some premium switching, which we may touch on later. And Aubameyang at 9.9, as he currently stands, may be worth a little bit of a nibble, because that allows me, frees up funds to potentially bring in somebody like Edouard or maybe a Gallagher. Because I'm very restricted in my budget with having as many premiums as I've got. I'm just not a Mikel Arteta fan. I think what we need to see from Arsenal in this fixture swing, in this block of fixtures up until this next international break, we need to see Arsenal dominating. We need to see Arsenal taking, I would suggest, 9 points out of those 4 games. Otherwise, Arteta's under some really serious pressure. He hasn't got the excuses of injuries anymore. There aren't, players quarantining. So he's got the bulk of what he would foresee as being his typical starting 11, his strongest team. You need to move away from their excuses and start delivering. He's had enough time now to work with the squad. There have been question marks with regards to maybe his tactics, the intensity of those training sessions. You know what? And if the players aren't responding to this pressure, the mounting media pressure, then for me, I don't see how Arteta can ride this storm. I'm just not convinced. I wasn't convinced with the appointment, and I've seen nothing from the team or Arteta to convince me either, anything else at this moment.
Yeah, and this is the interesting thing, is I think defensively they're good assets to own at the moment. But looking at the forward players, I've seen some people make maverick moves to Pepe or Saka or even to Aubameyang, that 9.9 forward. But at the moment, I just don't see why you would choose them above all the other assets that are doing really well in much better teams. So I can go with Arsenal being good as a defensive choice, which is exactly why Linn's brought them up, but not for midfielder attackers. And I don't know if that will improve as well, because even when Arsenal were good, in air quotes, they weren't scoring lots of goals. And this has been a problem for, 3 seasons now. They just don't create enough high quality chances for their forwards. In the first couple of those seasons, Aubameyang really overperformed, was fantastic, and subsequently might be due to his illness that he's had. He's just kind of gone off the boil, and so can't trust him in.
Big contract.
Yeah.
Contract it.
Contractitis, is it? A bit like Ozil, just something going around the club. And just quickly there, I've got my mug here as well. Lynn's just been showing off hers about Liverpool. And Ben is showing
M&M's.
M&M FC in terms of it. So I'm going to move to discussion on, though, in terms of these good teams, on to Leeds. Now, I think this is kind of obviously led by the fixtures, but they sit 17th after 4 games. So a lot of people go, oh, well, they're not very good. But I still think that Leeds are a good team. Maybe not defensively. They're almost like the opposite of Arsenal, that you don't want to be looking at the defensive assets, you want to be looking at their attacking ones. It's the fixture swing and also the history that we know Leeds are really, really good going forward. So over the next few game weeks, actually from game week 5 until game week 11, Leeds are top of the fixture difficulty rating. So there might be a chance of clean sheets in there as well. But you look at the likes of Bamford, maybe Rafinha, and I think there is some really good owns in there that you can look forward to. I like Bamford as he's going to be the focal point of that attack. They create so many good, high-quality chances. Yes, he doesn't score all of them. He just about matches XG, which is fair enough for a top-level striker. But he will be fed opportunities. And in Rafinha, whilst he hasn't looked as good as he has done historically, he's still producing fairly good underlying data. And if he can get near to matching that, half a goal, expected goal involvement per game, which he did last season, then there's no reason why he's not considerable as an asset. I mean, Linn, what do you think about Leeds as assets going forward? Do you think that they're worth a look in?
as you mentioned, as an attacking, if you look at the attack, then yes. But also, I'm a bit worried because I think Bamford was he looked a bit troubled by his hamstring at the end of the Liverpool game, and that does worry me. That's not some player I would like to bring in with a pending injury or a small knock, because it feels like he will need to rest to sort that. And I don't know. You know more about this than me, but is he gonna play or is he gonna?
Look, I mean, so yeah, he dropped a little bit deeper following the dismissal of Pascal Struijk. And ultimately, microphones picked up that Patrick Bamford, just before he was live to go on air, mentioned that his hamstring was pinging. I mean, I've checked your medical dictionary, even the Urban Dictionary, and there's nothing really that picks up. Okay. You know, we could hope that maybe it's fatigue related, just a little bit of cramp. Of course, when you change positions, you're putting your body in different shapes. You're required to do different. You work in different areas of the field. You're running slightly different. Your angles are, you know, so there's lots of additional strains and stresses on the body when you're moving players around in position. So we just hope that really it's just a little bit of that and anything more sinister in terms of any damage to that particular hamstring. What we do know, and I haven't got a full historical breakdown of how many games, but Patrick Bamford ordinarily is a guy who doesn't tend to get injured a lot. We seen last year he was carrying a little bit of a calf issue, but he was, you know, he played through that pain threshold. So, you know, that was absolutely fine. But, you know, no doubt, you know, we'll find out closer towards, well, Friday's game against my boys Newcastle. If Patrick, I'm not concerned either way whether Patrick Bamford plays or not. I'm not a fan. I never have been. He's overrated. I think, you know, this, for me, you look at, and this is a point I've raised with Jason before. You look at somebody who's maybe not matching the XG or just there or thereabouts, instead of seeing a player with a lot of potential who's getting into those opportunities and maybe just not taking it for whatever reason. I see that as well. You're just not good enough. You know, you're getting in those positions, finish them. You're a top class striker that's now part of the England fold. You've had a full season in that top flight. Build on what you've done last season and show, you know, and prove to people, prove the doubters, and then I'll make my judgments. But for me, when you talk about Leeds, I think there's an assumption that just because there's this fixture swing, there's going to be a huge shift in mentality, and all of a sudden you're going to have this level of confidence that you can go out and produce the results. But football isn't always like that, and it can be a little bit, what's the word? I was going to say finicky and temperamental, and, you know, going early, go down. Do you have that self-belief and that confidence to say, well, actually, I tell you what, we know we can come back into this. We know we can bounce back. This season, we haven't had it with Leeds, because when they've conceded one, you know, they may concede a second. Manchester United, obviously Liverpool. I think there's potential there, but maybe it's a bit of a wait and watch. I also quite like Dan James, who hasn't been mentioned yet. I was very surprised he didn't start at the weekend. I thought he made a good account of himself at Manchester United with limited opportunities. He always seemed to come in and do quite well. And if he comes into that team, that almost frees Rafinha up to potentially talk about that number 10 role. So you may play a lot closer to Patrick Bamford, and you may see a slight shift in how Marcelo Bielsa sets up his team, or the way maybe Leeds play. Maybe a little bit more on the front foot, maybe away from that 4-5-1 or that 3-3-3-1 to maybe like a 4-4-1-1. I don't know, but that would be interesting. I'd be looking forward to seeing how that one pans out with Dan James in the team.
And the annoying thing with Bielsa, and you can explain a bit more on this, Ben, is if Bamford does have an injury, he won't be forthcoming like he was a little bit in last season.
Had his fingers burnt, didn't he? I'm trying to recall the precise nature of why he was called out, but he actually named his starting 11, if I recall correctly. Something which he had done on numerous occasions in the Championship in the second tier. But obviously, this is the Premier League. There are a lot more eyes, and it was picked up upon in the media, and he faced a lot of flack for that. And for that reason, he just closed down completely for, subsequent press conference after that. He is a little bit more open, but, a lot of things do, slide by these days now. So it's not the dream Bielsa that we all used to love and adore pre-deadline. Now he's a little bit more guarded with the types of and level of information that he does release.
So quick one-word answers from you and Linn. Ben, avoid or get in Leeds assets?
Just avoid.
And Linn?
Avoid.
See, maybe I'm too positive on them. I'm going to get them in. So 2-1. 2-1, you two are beating me.
It's just 2-0. You don't get the one, you're gone. It's just...
I lose.
It's like a sudden death penalty. we took the penalty, you're gone, man, gone.
Oh, no. I'm at absolutely... Well, last week, to be fair, we hit on, your Benteke choice, so I guess it's my turn to be trampled upon. Ben, is there another team that you want to bring, or player, or just discussion point that needs to be brought to the fore?
Another team, I think if you're going to look at maybe, and look, I haven't been a big fan of his, but you cannot knock what Rafa Benitez has done down at Goodison Park, certainly from an attacking sense. He came into the job back against the wall. There's a lot of disharmony and discontent among the Everton faithful, given his background. We seen the result at Old Trafford pre-season, 4-0. It almost looked as if the writing was on the wall. The radio stations were lighting up and they wanted, Rafa's head on a block. And I can only say that he's came out and he's delivered so far. Much to my surprise, some of his in-play tactical shifts and switches are paying dividends. We know that he's meticulous in his preparation. The two signings, which in the early, they're like talking about buys of the season if they continue on the same trajectory of what they've come at Andros Townsend and Demaya Gray. Two players, if you ask me, and I would say absolutely garbage. Honestly, I wouldn't have them anywhere. I wouldn't have had them anywhere near my team. End of. But I tell you what, the way they've come in and performed like two players who, again, look as if they've got something to prove, to go out there and show that they can still deliver at the top flight. Andros Townsend has been there and done it. He was at Newcastle. He's a great seasoned pro coming to the latter years of his career. Demaya Gray, to me, was always a player who they talked about potential and never really seen it, had a bit of a chip on his shoulder, went away, come back, and it looks as if he's knuckled down. And I think I'm right to think he's arrived for 1.7 million, which was, ridiculous. He's paid that fee off, by the spadeful. And even in the absence of DCL on Monday night, you could maybe question where the goal's coming from. Can Everton put this game to bed against, historically what would be a fairly solid and difficult team to break down 4-4-2 short dash? And they go out there and, they get another great result, 3-1. So for me, and with some nice fixtures coming up, I think Everton, deserves some recognition and some credit and some serious consideration.
And this is something that you agree with, Linn, because again, going back to your wildcard team, Gray is in your team.
Yeah, it is.
Can I just say I wasn't part of this wildcard podcast. This is something you've done away from me. So, this is music to my ears. I'm used to people telling me no. what you're talking about, Ben, you're absolutely clueless.
But
So
is this not against your logic though? Because you love being differential dinnery, so you like it when you go Damari Gray's good and everybody else goes he's crap, and then you go that's music to my ears because nobody else is going to have him in.
yeah, but I'm still. I mean, yeah. Look, we're a very small part of the community here. Demise Gray's ownership levels are still edging, nearing that differential. I think he's around 12.6 overall ownership, and that will go. I mean, for me, I like Richarlison as well. I think we spoke on another podcast, especially in the absence of DCL. I thought the international break, he's had a really busy summer, Copa America, the Olympics. He wants to repay the faith shown in him by Rafa and his staff. So I think he's another player that just needs to lose that little bit of a chip and just focus on what he's good at, not getting involved in players winding him up, because he'll pick up the odd yellow card and the odd red card. But in terms of ability, I think he is a class act.
And this is the interesting thing, though. You and Linn both kind of agree that Everton are fantastic in attack. But Linn, do you think that maybe going forward that their defence might cost them? Would that cost kind of come into your thinking that, they haven't been very good at keeping clean sheets? They might be caught out from the fact that they're not very good at kind of keeping the ball out of their own net.
Yeah, but still at the same time, they should score enough goals. Who cares?
That's the Kevin Keegan approach, isn't it?
I think that will be Everton this year, and I think it will be Wolves this year. They're going full on attack, and that's what's going to save them. I think they will probably have a couple of bad games where it doesn't work. They're shut down and they're closed off. I would say that Benitez and Everton's defense can improve massively.
I think the interest.
I think there's hope. There's hope for defense, but probably not until after Christmas.
Is that because of transfers or because of tactics? Okay. I mean,
I'll tell you who I'll throw in, if you want a differential. This is not a differential Dinnery. This is a differential Doucouré.
Oh.
I mean, he's a player who this season's been given a different role. We often see him as in that 6-6 pivot alongside Alain, but he's been given much more license to roam, play a little bit higher up the pitch. And yes, it hasn't come to fruition just yet, but I do think he's bubbling under the surface. I think if you went back to 2018-19, am I right? He's a player, I think 5 goals, 7 assists, probably doing his Watford day, those marauding runs forward. So he's a player who, is comfortable in a box on the ball and has got a goal and assist in him. So Doucouré is definitely on my radar as well.
Well, it's a fair point. He's already got 1 goal, 3 assists this season. He is looking good. So you're right to say that under the surface, but he has got some great kind of outputs already. And it will be interesting to see because he has that ability. Doucouré, in terms of like his underlying data, he's good at a lot of things. That's the interesting thing when Everton signed him, was kind of where is he going to play? Because he can play in that defensive midfield role. He can be box to box. He can be an architect. And I think his work rate is something that probably Benitez likes as well. Benitez doesn't like a James Rodriguez kind of player that's marquee signing but doesn't do a lot apart from maybe scoring goals or creating chances. He likes a team player that does a lot, will work hard. So kind of going forward, I think it's a fair shout, but at his price point, he's 5.5 as well. You'd go for Gray over him, wouldn't you, at the end of the day? The final talking point on the goods that I want to bring up, and it's not a team, it's not a player, but I think it's well worth mentioning, is premium switching. Now, again, Ben and Linn, you've both gone with a lot of premiums in your team, so you're kind of avoiding this discussion point in many aspects because you don't have to premium switch. You're going with Ronaldo, Lukaku and Salah. But I think And maybe I'm wrong here, but there's this kind of discussion point almost in the community that has been there for a while of almost a reluctance to switch premiums, especially in season, that they kind of go, you stick with one, maybe you get another one in on your wild card and then wait till there's an injury or something, but you don't get rid of your premiums all that often. But I think this season, we're kind of seeing that there's quite a few premiums that could do well or are doing well already. So there's still Kane to see how he does at Tottenham. Is he going to be the player that he was, or is the failed transfer going to make him not a good asset? Son, when he's back from injury, De Bruyne, and kind of looking at the fact that Ronaldo is already doing well, Lukaku's already doing well, and Salah's doing well. And quite often people go, well, stick with one, and that's your captain for the season, for a long old time. And there's almost this fear to actually do it. Whereas I think considering doing premium switching could pay off dividends. Yes, the premium might score because they're that good. But I think, Linn, this is something that maybe people need to adopt more, is that you can take out a premium fixture and it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, most definitely. The only worry I would have if I did it like every other game week is team value. You could potentially lose a lot of value unless you go early and make an early transfer each game week.
With that,
So,
though,
yeah.
is that too much focus on team value and maybe not on points? I don't think you'd do a premium switch every week, but you would manipulate it so that you could ride it for 2 or 3 game weeks, good run of fixtures for, say, Lukaku, and then switch it to Ronaldo or switch it to Salah, even Mane. You know, he's got to be considered in there at some point. And instead of kind of just going, right, I'm going to keep them for a very long time, I think sometimes people were caught out as well. You know, when Sterling went on that very bad run, I will put my hands up. I kind of kept faith in him because he's Sterling, because he's playing for Man City, because he's so good. And I didn't switch to anybody else because that was the tactic that's always been, is keep faith in them and they will pay off eventually.
Yeah, I think we got burned by that last season with KDB, Sterling and all that. Oh, I was there too. I wildcarded and got 23 points because both KDB and Sterling blanked against Burnley. I will remember that forever.
Oh, God.
Anyway, yeah, I do believe in premium switching, but I think you also need to be a bit careful when you do it and plan a bit more long term. Don't do it every other week. Play the game. Try to keep them for like a month, 3-4 game weeks at least. TV is not the most important thing, but it's still important. Like now on my VC, I had 1 million extra, and it's game week 4. So that's helped me out a lot.
So,
which means I could probably do a bit of switching, and I wouldn't lose too much because I've got a decent TV at the moment.
yeah.
But that would actually be my main worry, that you would lose too much on it.
Does that come into your thinking then, Ben? I mean, premium...
What, team value?
No, team value, premium switching, all that.
Right, well, team value, you know what it is? I've got absolutely no idea what you're on about. I couldn't care less. Got none, never. I've just learned what XG was, man, in the last year. See, team value, no, right, scratch that crap. That means nothing to me. And premium switching, of course. Why would I limit myself to playing a particular style of game? I'm open to any kind of suggestion. And regardless, I mean, as it currently stands, Harry Kane is on the chopping block. For the first time in his Premier League career, when he's played 90 minutes, he had no touches and no shots in the box against Crystal Palace at the weekend. And is that more indicative of the Harry Kane now? Or is it more of a Nuno's approach to how he's setting his team up at Tottenham and maybe his management style over the last 18 or so months, when Wolves went from playing that quite attacking, entertaining style of football to this sitting back, conservative, passive, boring approach that try to sort of bore teams into submission. And for me, I can see that, coming in at Tottenham. You hide behind injuries, quarantine, players missing, losing Dyer, the dismissal. But ultimately, Tottenham never looked like being able to do anything against a team. Again, you mentioned it, and everybody's jumping on Palace and saying, "Oh, on the great, the 1-3." Let's not forget, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about Patrick Vieira, and this is a Palace team in transition, and it may take a while, and they don't really look that good. They've had one decent result. Conor Gallagher had a couple of decent games. Edouard looks like a decent striker, but, it's still Palace. They're not going to be threatening that top 8. If they got anywhere near that top half, that is a fantastic season for them to stay up. That it's job done for Patrick Vieira, and they absolutely mauled Tottenham. So going back to my point, would I jump off premiums? Yes, of course I would, at any single point.
Just to remind people, though, you would say that Benteke is good. Like, Crystal Palace, all right, but he's world class level.
Benteke made Edwards 2 goals on Saturday. By the way, what more do you want? Ran that Tottenham defence so ragged they didn't even have the energy to pick him up when he came on as a sub. What more could you want from a centre forward?
See, that's
absolutely selfless.
5,000 IQ level. That's just ridiculous, And we need you to give those insights. You're talking there though about prospects to wait on. So let's transition into that. I'm going to throw it to you both about West Ham. Is it time to depart? Now, Ben and I, this is something that we talked about pre-season quite a lot in terms of our interviews and analysis, that when West Ham started their Europa League campaign, I was very reluctant to continue with their assets. Antonio maybe, because he's a really good striker, doesn't matter too much, but over the next 8 game weeks, West Ham have the 3rd worst run of fixtures of any team, so that has to be factored in as well. But it's the Europa League. It adds so much uncertainty to whether the players are going to play more than 60 minutes. Some of the big assets might be rested. Ben Rama might be rotated now that they've got Vlasic in there. There is quite a few question marks, and so I'm not sure if they will continue their fantastic run purely because they're going to be really fatigued. They're going to be overworked. I mean, Ben, quickly from you, how much of an impact does these extra games have on a player's output?
Potentially massive. Quick turnaround between games, particularly if you're playing away on a Thursday evening. In the current climate, COVID, pandemic, restrictions, players might even be returning into this country, back into their home until late on Friday. There are no sessions on the pitches in the build-up. It will be a case of, the second that final whistle blows, it's post-match recovery strategy, and then it's pre-match build-up. And, you're going to be picking up knocks. You're going to have to manage your players a little bit more carefully. You're not going to be able to have that continuity. Fatigue will be a huge, huge factor. And I think the worm has turned for West Ham. I still don't think they're a squad that is blessed with a lot of depth. So maybe David Moyes, if they do pick up a couple of injuries, they're going to be struggling.
And Linn, do you agree? A lot of teams, the template at the moment is at least 2 West Ham assets, Ben Rama and Antonio. A lot of people have a 3rd in terms of a West Ham defender. You don't have any now in your team in terms of your wild card.
I had 3, and now I have 0. And there's a reason for that. They did not look as defensively sound as I thought they would be. And Ben Ahmad's not been on form the last couple of games. It's not looked like the same player as it started the season. And Antonio's red cards and all the cups coming, it's probably not a good idea to go there.
Yeah.
Well, there are better options, let's put it that way. He's still a quality player. He will always be a quality player, but how much will he actually play? Will he stay fit? Too many questions.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I think I will hold Antonio for the time being just because I think he's that good that he can do well. The annoying thing is he's being sold a lot now, though, so he's losing a bit of that team value. You know, what we were discussing about just a second ago. One last thing maybe to you, Linn, though, is do you think people should hold on to Jarrod Bowen as well? Because potentially he might be an out-of-position midfielder for this Man United game, for the next few games as well. And he plays really well even with an absence of Antonio. He could... I know it's one game that Antonio's out, but he might be one of the ones that you do just keep a little bit of faith in, even though he hasn't done fantastic either.
No, because they signed Vlasic, and he has quality as well, and he will play up top if Antonio isn't.
There you go. So, last of the prospects to wait on, because we kind of covered Arsenal already, is Wolves. You've talked about Wolves with me, Linn. You're quite keen on them. I'm not so keen. We'll start off with you, though, Ben. Are you in the middle? Are you keen, not keen? What do you think about them?
I'm probably good. I'm cooling on Wolves. I did quite like Wolves coming into the season under Bruno Lage. I expected maybe a little bit too much from them. I think it was just a positive move away from Nuno. And look, the underlying data has been good. But it's almost that, everybody's jumping on board with Wolves again with this expected fixture swing, that all of a sudden everything's just going to click and they're going to start winning. Decent result at the weekend. Let's see if they can build on that. The Bull, whatever his name is, Hi-Chan, I think that is probably not even his name, but he's also known as the Bull. I think 5.5 million. He piqued my interest coming off the bench. Although he hasn't got a really great goal scoring record, he tends to grab his goals in patches. And then obviously it depends on where he plays, but he could be a good foil for Raul Jimenez. He's that burden a little bit. Adama Traore expected to deliver at the weekend. Again, probably had, in terms of his data outputs, maybe one of his worst games this season. You've got Daniel Podence now, who's in and around that starting 11. And does he threaten a Traore or a Trincao? I just don't know. Again, there's too many uncertainties for Wolves for me at this moment. So I'm cooling, but they're on the radar.
You're much more warm on Wolves, though. I mean, why do you believe in them? And I think you've talked about how you like Hwang Hi-Chan. I think that's how you pronounce it.
That's what I said.
Go on, Linn.
I like Hwang. He scored against Liverpool in Champions League once. And also I'm really into Bundesliga. He had one amazing season. Like, he was looking so good and he was so involved. He was good technically, and he was such a good player that season. And then he just kind of cooled off and didn't get to play as many games. But I think he can see this as, he's gonna show us the bull now at Wolves. And while Jubides has looked okay, he's not been as attacking as I would have liked him to. So I don't know. There's been a bit of talk of them playing two up top, and that could be quite interesting. So it's a bit like Ben says, it's a wait and see, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
It will be interesting to see. I mean, in terms of Hwang Hi-Chan himself, I'm not too sure, because like his underlying data, I did like a little bit of a dive into him. He has really good XG per 90, and then you do the XG minus actual goals scored, and he underperformed all through last season, I think by 0.3 goals per 90. So he was basically almost a third less than what he should have been scoring. And then he doesn't offer a lot in terms of XA as well. So he could be a good option at his price point in a team like Wolves if they can start scoring goals. I'm just not too sure. And then I'm always very reluctant of new players into new leagues. I think they take a bit of time to adjust. So I would avoid him for the moment. But you know better because you've kind of watched a lot more Bundesliga than we have. In terms of Wolves, I just look at them as maybe this year's Brighton. You know, they had fantastic numbers those first 3 games. Yes, there were some difficult games in there, but this isn't like a vastly different squad to the one of last season, which was really not a good side that performed really bad defensively and weren't able to score goals either. And this was a team, like kind of Ben said, that was set up to be defensively good, and they couldn't be good then. So I don't know, with more attacking football, if they're suddenly going to improve as well. I mean, there is the argument that obviously if they get better at attack in the overall teams, but they haven't so far this season. But at 4.5 defensive assets, you know, the likes of Marcal could be interesting ones to own, could be good, and there is a great fixture swing. Just for me at the moment, there's good underlying data, but it hasn't been met. So that's my kind of viewpoint on that, and that's why I would say it's ones to wait on. Going into the bad, coming into the end of the show as well, Brentford, they've been a good team. I don't think that they're a bad team at all, and they've looked strong defensively, but now they go into one of the worst runs after this game against Wolves, second worst run of any team over the next day. And I think the experiment with their assets of Mbeumo, Tony, their defensive players as well, I think it's time now to get them out, because you're going to lose team value, you're going to lose points or potential points. Ben just doesn't like when we say team value. That's like a swear word to him. But I think it was nice to kind of experiment, give them a chance, but now it's going to be really, really tough for them to pick up anything. And even people are talking about keeping Raya in because he might get save points, but you want somebody who's going to get you a clean sheet. And so Sanchez seems to be the better option, and that's why you've gone with him, isn't it, Linn?
Yeah, exactly. People even suggested Ramsdale to me. 4.5 could also be an option, like nice fixtures and everything. But I don't like to transfer out my goalkeeper as the keeper for the season or until I wild card again. So that's why I've got Sanchez. I think he's a better long-term option.
Yeah, and the thing is, as well, as you don't know with Ramsdale if he's going to keep that position. You know, it could have been just a message to Leno. It could have been a nice way to introduce Ramsdale. We don't know that the 100% goalkeeper situation at the moment. Ben, kind of looking at Brentford, it's pretty easy, isn't it, to say, look, it's not worth the risk. Get their assets out, and then maybe get them in when they've got a good run of fixtures where they've got something to play for as well. Yeah,
it looks to be that way. The more maverick among us may decide to hold on to one or two. Look, I heard a lot of suggestions when they come up. These could be the Sheffield United of the Premier League, come up, keeping things pretty tight. Let's see how they react after last weekend's result, because that was a disappointing one to lose at home to Brighton. We knew it was going to be tight. I think most people, self included, probably expected that 1-0 scoreline to go the other way, and it didn't. So it'll be how maybe Thomas Frank reacts in terms of that starting 11. We haven't seen a great deal of change in that starting 11, but there are players who are coming back into that squad in and around the fringes of that first 11 who are getting back to fitness. And if he changes things up again, you know, that may, you know, one or two players may emerge into that Bees lineup. So, look, I agree on paper, it looks a difficult task these next few game weeks. But like I say, I mean, if you're the maverick among us and you like a differential, maybe it's not such a bad thing to stick with maybe one of those assets just to keep your finger on the pulse with the youngins.
And I think I do agree that Brentford could be a Sheffield United-esque team. I do think a lot of people are going to be shocked at how good their defence is, but I just don't want to take that risk when there are good assets with better fixtures and good data. Brighton have just kind of done well so far this season. We'll see if they're actually improved, if they're actually good, because they did this at points through last season. But fixtures and form are with Brighton form is with Brentford, but not the fixtures, and so they're similarly priced. It's more sensible, isn't it? And it's less of a heartache. Big final discussion to end with, though. Are Tottenham bad? I've got lots of data. I've got lots of discussion points here. Obviously, I've got a bit of a bias. Some people may have noticed which cup I'm drinking from is an Arsenal one. But, for this analysis, I put team biases aside. I don't kind of go in with my feelings towards Tottenham, we shall say. I won't say either way. But, yeah, Linn, looking at Tottenham, the narrative this season has been Nuno's done fantastically, defensive stop-outs. This is brilliant from a Tottenham team that couldn't do that last season. Now they've been demolished by Crystal Palace. Ben has kind of highlighted that this is just one game, but have they been lucky so far in actually having these great stop-outs?
Yeah, I'm not a Spurs fan either. And especially, I really rate Son. And when he's out, they are a thing to stay away from, to put it that way. I think they've been, or they should have been, defensively sound. I don't know why they're not clicking. But yeah, there's really no assets at all at their team that I would go for at the moment. None.
And the thing is with Tottenham as well, Ben, let's get your thoughts and feelings before I go into the analysis and everything. But there seems to be something wrong there. Going forward, they're not very good. Defensively, they've been letting a lot of high quality chances through. Going before the first, in the first 2 game weeks, they conceded 50 shots. This isn't good enough, really, is it?
The results papered over the cracks, and when you look beneath the surface and you contextualize, how those results were born, and that asked questions, and almost Saturday told us all, really, the people that had looked at it, what we already sort of knew. Tottenham were very fragile. You can, like I say, you can hide behind the players missing, those who are in quarantine, the dismissal, Eric Dyer being forced off. But ultimately, they still look like a team really devoid of any creativity and belief. He changed the system. I'm not really sure why Nuno set up the way he did. It was almost like a Christmas tree, the old Terry Venables Christmas tree formation. Whether it was Harry Kane was just totally isolated, or, maybe it was a culmination of just everything, but they didn't look up for it. I expected big things from Dele Alli this season, and I was expecting him to come out. And I seen the interview with Rio Ferdinand, and the great playing lip service, and it's one of his mates, and he bigs him up, and I got fit in pre-season, and I got my personal trainer, and I put on muscle, and I'm running harder and fitter and faster than anybody else. All right, that's fantastic. Get yourself doing the Harriers, because this is a football pitch. And if you're not producing it on a football pitch, what's the point? Because they've got no heart, they've got no balls to go out there and have a bit of fight against the Crystal Palace team. Tanganga, they talk to me about players these days. Honestly, they're going, what a fantastic prospect he is. He's had a couple of half-decent games, and they put him on a pedestal. You know what? He's a young kid who's learning his craft, and he's all right. But you're pinning your hopes on these players, keeping that Tottenham defence, defensively sound and solid. Eric Dyer, man. As somebody winded me up, Oliver Skipper, another player who is a young kid learning his craft. You need players with a little bit of experience that wants to stand up and be counted and drag that team up, and they haven't got it. I don't know what it is. How many times can you blame the managers, the Marinos, the Poches of this world? But ultimately, it's got to fall on the shoulders of the players, and you've got to stand up and be counted. And for me, we'll go back to that. These players just aren't as good as they think they are, and they've maybe hid behind Harry Kane and Son for far too long. now to pull them out of the crap. And maybe this is the season that they no longer do that. You know, I think Harry Kane's gone at the end of this season. He's done his little stint. He's appeased the fans, regardless of whatever contract to sign him on for. For me, he's absolutely gone. And Tottenham blew the fact that they should have cashed in on him for 120, 30 million or whatever it was this season, because I don't think they'll get that next year.
That's a very deep dive into Tottenham. I didn't think we were going that deep in terms of analysis. If anybody was watching, they'd think that you're the Arsenal fan out of all of us. Just to bring it to the data as well, you know, I agree with everything that you've said there, Ben. And one of the first things is the way that the team's set up for playing at Selhurst Park. You'd look at the data, I think it was 30 to 60% possession. You'd think, oh, well, Tottenham would dominate the possession. No, it was Crystal Palace. They went in almost like they were a relegation-threatened side that were so worried to go to Selhurst Park against the mighty Crystal Palace, when really it should have been the other way round. It should have been Crystal Palace worried that Tottenham were coming to their turf. And so far this season, Tottenham have averaged 43.3% possession. I mean, for a team that has the likes of Kane, Son, even the Chelsea is a pretty good creator, passer of the ball, this isn't good enough. And so they've kept 3 clean sheets, but on 3 of those 4 games, they were beaten on the XG scoreline, and they sit bottom 5 for XG conceded so far this season. That's not great. Second worst for non-penalty XG in the league, second worst for chances created, second worst for shots in the box. I mean, is this going to rectify itself anytime soon, Linn?
I don't see it. I really don't.
They don't have the personnel or the tactics to do it. So
No, I don't think Nuno's the right manager for them. I don't think he can fix it. I don't think Tottenham will be a good option for a long time.
Yeah,
because they need a lot of work to do.
So when we were talking about premium switching and said Harry Kane, we shouldn't have put that. We shouldn't have put him in those discussions there at all. He shouldn't have been in there. I mean, this is the thing. Adding to that, they have some of the worst fixtures over the next 8 game weeks. There's just not a lot to love. And on one part, it brings me joy to say that. But on another part, it's an interesting thing that there's been a turnabout pace in the narrative of Nuno was a fantastic manager doing really well with that Spurs squad, and now people are kind of drilling in deeper and going, oh, actually they were bad and this was very lucky. And it'll be interesting to see if there's some sort of response now, especially with the North London derby kind of on the horizon, or if they're going to continue, you know, in this very negative style of football. But in terms of negativity, I hope that you've been positive and enjoyed today's show. Once again, as always, remember to subscribe, like the video, comment below, because we're going to be talking about Fantasy Premier League each and every week. We're going to be going through the good, the bad, and the we're not so sure about, just for you to analyse. As we said, Linn is going to be here with us through the season for our shows. It's going to be really good fun, and we hope you enjoy. So make sure to hit the subscribe button so that you never miss a video with us, all 3 of us, but also with Dr. Raj in terms of the analysis of injuries, the captaincy videos, and also the specialist guests that we do have on as well. I can say with a lot of hope and positivity that we've got a big guest coming over in the international break, but I won't say any more than that, Ben. We'll tease that one. But for now, I'm going to wish everybody the best of luck. It's going to be a goodbye from me. I think it's going to be a goodbye and good luck from Ben, although he might not be giving you good luck because he wants to win. And also, it might be a goodbye and good luck, or maybe not good luck from Linn as well. I don't know if you want to give them good luck, Linn. But a cheerio for now, everybody.